If you've been keeping your ear to the E-ground, you would know that Overkill has been hyping two big heists, the Casino Heist and the Alesso Heist, for release this year. Based on this hype, I know that the Casino Heist is gonna be big, really big, probably the biggest in Payday history. All indications point to driving, tons of cash just lying around, a real treat to the Payday connoisseur. The promotion leading up to the Alesso Heist, which just dropped this week, didn't really tell me anything about it, other than it would probably be set at a concert. It's a DJ-themed heist, so what else should I expect? A bunch of musically themed melee weapons, I guess. You know, Payday DLC is starting to look more and more like Sims expansion packs, just themed really hard. After the cowboy and food themed DLC, I fully expect Disco's back, Here Come the In-Laws, and Pets DLCs coming in the very near future. Presently, however, we have to ponder this poorly promoted producer production and present, profoundly, promptly, and without prejudice, is it worth $7? Spoilers, not really. Although my recommendation comes riddled with personal misgivings and a pinch of penny pinchery. The premise is interesting, if a little pandering. In order to rob the most unrobbable GenSec vault in the country, you have to invade the backstage of a concert being run by superstar DJ Alesso. Thankfully, they're being held at the same arena. You end up driving a forklift to give your teammates a needed boost, running bags through a maze of backstage concession stands and green rooms, and ultimately running the pyrotechnical display for this concert, while the A-Man himself soaks up the adoration of this photorealistic, seething crowd. I almost thought that you'd have a more direct interaction with this guy and his audience. Maybe you'd kidnap him or get close enough for them to create a custom model. I mean, for Christ's sake, the dude's face and merchandise are everywhere, and all of the text, voiceover, and materials for the heist are really pandering. I know he's local to Overkill, being Swedish and all, and I'm not gonna go too hard on them for being fans and wanting to feature him, but the ecstasy of an Alesso concert? Really? Again, Overkill have put themselves into the position of having their fans pay for an advertisement. I know the guy makes similar music to Simon Vikund, and people who are fans of his might be excited to have his music in the game, maybe a mask or two dedicated to him. But this is a full-scale, for-money, 30-minute advertisement. Even if this was Daft Punk or Justice, groups I'm thoroughly into, I don't think it would make this okay for me. You really have to be an Alesso fan for the Alesso overload that is this level to really work. You're in this opulent backstage, surrounded by pictures of this guy's face, virtual t-shirts with his logo on it, listening to his music, and near the end of the heist, literally running parts of his show. If you're not a fan of the guy, you might end up hating him by the end, simply by virtue of being forcibly exposed to his persona. I think I would be cooler with all this if it were supposed to be satirical, but I'm not sure if it is supposed to be satire or not. Even though you're in the GenSec arena, Alesso features the Payday Gang's masks during his show, flaunting his countercultural, anti-heroic imagery. You escape from the police through rooms dedicated to his success, your only cover from gunfire half the time being his half-smiling face, almost as if he's helping you escape. His visage is omnipresent throughout the entire level, but his character avatar is just out of reach. Most TV screens in the game are breakable, but the ones with Alesso's name and logo are unbreakable, undefaceable, immortal. The effect for me was similar to that of having Dr. Breen's face plastered all over City 17. The sheer repetition of his visage becomes hateful, and you end up despising the guy, even though you might know nothing about him to begin with. You hate him because you can't escape from him, because he's made the entire world about him. Familiarity breeds contempt. This heist flirts a boundary between the satire of a celebrity and a worshipful shrine, and I'm just a little bit uncomfortable with it. The heist itself is better than the premise. The one thing I can say about the level is that it's different. It's probably the most neon thing you'll find this side of the Barbie aisle at your local Toys R Us. The sound design is pretty good. The cheering crowds give you the impression that all the while this action is going on, there's a wild show right next to you with thousands of people. It's also an inherently close-range level with lots of small rooms adjacent to the main path, half a dozen staircases, tons of small corridors and places to find cover. It's a total maze, and your team is gonna get stranded if you don't stick together throughout the winding corridors. Even though this is closer to what a standard shooter might do, it's very new for Payday to have a large level made from small parts. All of your enemies have to be fought a little bit differently because of this. Usually, Payday AI is going to send a majority of the cops directly at you and keep one or two in side rooms, so there's a little bit of resistance in every direction. In the Alesso Heist, there's typically an equal number of cops in every direction, and a way larger number not being actively used, since the rooms are too small for the kinds of groups you'd see in other heists. This results in a much harsher grinding down, where you start having trouble finding a place to take cover, since every small room you dive into to escape from the cops is going to have a small group there too. Certain specials are more potent in these small areas as well. Shields wreak havoc by blocking your path, and there's no good way to flank them in these confined areas. Tasers are always in range and are in no short supply. It's also the only heist so far where the snipers are kinda actually hidden, to the point where they're even hard to hit. They still don't know how to turn off the giant "please shoot me" lasers on their guns though, and there's really only one or two areas you're going to be facing them anyways. There's a vehicle in the heist as well. You do get to drive the forklift again, although this time it's only to get a leg up to reach areas in the ceiling in order to cut through them to get to the money. The overall setup of the heist is good, even though the color palette gave me a headache after a little while. The fact that this heist utilizes close quarters more extremely and its uncommon maze-like structure give it an edge on the current roster. There are some problems I have with it though. Many of them are, sadly, common overkill early release jitters. I was having some serious frame rate issues throughout the entire heist. There was also a problem with the last wave. I got downed about 20 minutes into the heist, and that particular wave never ended. I was stuck watching my friends complete the job for about 20 minutes. There was no indication that there was some sort of final wave that would never end. I can only assume this was a bug. The AI also seems a little stilted, often seeming to not know quite what to do, standing still for long periods of time. I know it's become standard to expect a few of these problems for the first few weeks after a heist has been released, but it's getting old, having huge amounts of desync and mildly flummoxed AI, and frame rate issues, and the same problems, showing up time and time again in new heists. I was also a little peeved I couldn't open any of the cash registers around the level. I guess these are cosmetic cash registers, and these are real cash registers. There's also a real sense of fatigue with this heist. I don't think that multiple playthroughs are gonna be a thing. Even within a single playthrough, you're gonna notice that you traverse from one end of the heist to the other multiple times, almost like it's a Halo 2 level and they're just trying to get some extra mileage out of a single map. You go up to find the C4, down to place it, up again to do the pyro, down again to use the circle saws, and then up again to move the bags to the extract. This is needless repetition, and thanks to the maze and some hard-to-find staircases, feels like I'm back in the 90s looking for red key to that red door again. Moving on to the extras, I know I usually don't have to say much about the masks that come with heists, but these ones are real winners. Aside from the male and female partygoer masks, that is, I really like the Greek headphone god mask, and this other one makes me feel like one half a Daft Punk, and that's awesome. Still, not a deal breaker for me, but nice enough for me to say something about them. The Matuxmatux revolver is a nice design, and I like using it just to look at it. However, it's just a reskin and a stat boost to the Bronco 44. If you've seen some of my previous videos, I'm not necessarily looking for better weapons, I applaud different. The Matuxmatux, other than cosmetically, is not different. It is, at best, more of the same, and I'm not impressed. I'm trying not to completely crap on this heist. It's nice to have new heists, really, it is. Some of the stuff you had to do in this heist was novel. It's flashy and campy and loud, perfect for Payday. Parts of the premise, as much of a pimp for superstar DJ Alesso as they were new and kinda cool. The technical problems, limited scope of the heist itself, lack of longevity or much replayability, underwhelming weapon, and price of the heist make it a no-buy for me, however. $7 is too much to pay for this heist package. My overall advice? Like with the Diamond heists, Overkill just needs to start bundling heists, or lower their prices for me to be able to really recommend these new heists to anybody. The Alesso heist is a disappointment to me on those grounds, but despite this, I'm still looking forward to the casino heist later this year. Cause hey, who can argue with big?